So I've got there's a lot of people on Dog Post who've already this is hilarious. They have already booked their hotel rooms for Houston because they think the Georgia Bulldogs will be playing a national championship game there in the at the beginning of 2024. I mean, okay, but I'm not sure I'm quite that confident. But here's the question for y'all. What is more likely to happen? That Georgia wins the that Georgia three-peats or that Alabama wins the national championship? This is something that I think, we're going to kick around for a while here because those two teams are the betting favorites to win the national championship in 2024. They're both going through a lot of change. Stetson Bennett, gone. He's two-time national championship quarterback Stetson Bennett, gone. Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Bryce Young, gone. How can you really depend on Georgia to go back, not just back to back like this, but three national championships in a row? Pick up Double Dogs. If you have not seen this yet, it's called Double Dogs. It's our 80-page book. It's been sent off to the printer. We're going to get it out to everybody who's ordered starting in early January. You're going to start getting yours in late February. It's hard for me to know exactly the date. Late February could mean February 28th or early March. So pick it up today if you've not seen this. The link is down below. The link for the PE sweatshirt from our friends at Red Zone on Clayton Street in downtown Athens. That link is down below too. It's not as cold as it was yesterday. I feel more crisp with this on. I actually do work out with this sweatshirt on, believe it or not. But when you look at the trajectory of this thing, Stetson gone, Bryce Young gone, CJ Stroud gone. Returning, the Michigan quarterback is returning. The Heisman Trophy winning quarterback from SC, he is returning. You've got some transition at Clemson, Penn State, you have transition, Notre Dame, you have transition. Talking about at quarterback, Texas, we don't really know what's going on at Texas. We have every possible superstar quarterback and no functioning offense at Texas. And then, Florida State returns the same quarterback as does Oregon. So could someone out west or down south of the Georgia Florida line actually get to the playoff and win it? I don't know. I doubt it. At the end of the day, you know, what's more likely to happen, though? Is it more likely that Georgia wins a third national championship or in a row, or that Alabama and Nick comes back and wins it this year? You know, off the cuff here, I would say to me, it is more likely that Georgia will win a third national championship in a row. I know that is hard to really say out loud. But when you look objectively at the situation at both Alabama and Georgia, the Dogs are in a slightly better position coming into 23. Now, some things can still change here. As I'm talking to you, Todd Monken is still the offensive coordinator at Georgia. If he leaves, does that change things? Yeah, I mean some. Alabama, we know they have already replaced offensive and defensive coordinators. That's not been a great formula for winning the national championship at Bama, but I don't think it precludes them from winning the national championship. I mean, that something happened in 2000, whatever, well, 2016, I guess. They changed defensive coordinators, did not win the national championship. I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to matter now. So, geez, I don't, I don't know that the two of them are probably going to match up for the SEC championship. I think the team that's being left out here more than gosh than I would expect is LSU. I mean, does LSU have the capability, to come up and really be problematic? Uh, they are not even close to being highly rated for national championship odds in 2024. They are way down the list. But I know what Brian Kelly can do. He's done a good job, generally speaking. Um, I think you've got some things to clean up there. I mean, you cannot lose to Texas A&M. That makes no sense at all. What about the Aggies? But at the end, does it when you're just discussing Georgia and Bama? Which one is more likely to win? The odds makers would tell you that Georgia has double the chance to win the national championship as Alabama, about three times more likely than Ohio State, about anywhere from 3.5 to 4 times more likely than Michigan, about 8 times more likely than SC, and about 10 times more likely than Clemson, and then Clemson, Penn State. So Clemson, Penn State, and Notre Dame are all in the same sort of category. They are not considered major threats. They're just kind of listed. Clemson, I think Clemson's this is the first time I've seen a Clemson schedule, and I'm like, they could lose some games. You don't normally see that. I do love that they play on a Monday night to open the season. That's not really their call as much as it is their broadcast rights holder. But I think it's neat. Georgia could have done that this year. By the way, I will let y'all in on something. You're this deep into the video. I talked with someone who would have absolute understanding of the situation at Georgia. We kick around a lot of stuff here on Dog Post and on the message board. There is no scenario where Georgia's 2023 schedule will change. I didn't think that was the case. I was skeptical that that was the case, that something would change, and it won't. So keep that in mind. If you're waiting around to see if, Gary Stokan and company at the Peach Bowl pull a rabbit out of the hat, that's not happening in 2023. It's just too late. It's too late. I think the one thing that's curious that could come up is as the the Big 12, SEC, Fox, and Disney all, position themselves in negotiation. Is it possible that Texas and OU could come in 2024? That's really going to come down to Disney and News Corporation making figuring something out. Um, I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks they will by 2024, but in 2023, you know, Alabama's brought in a great recruiting class. As we saw this past season from Texas A&M, one recruiting class is not going to save you, particularly a young one. This isn't basketball where you can get three guys in one class and that can change the trajectory of your program. That's not what this is. Georgia, in their position, they're returning a lot of strength. The offensive line basically returns. The defensive line does not have Jalen Carter, but it returns a lot of guys: Zion Logue, Warren Brinson, Stackhouse, Ingram Dawkins, Williams. These are all Bear Alexander. These are all Jones will be back by the fall. These are all guys. When you look at Georgia's situation running into 2023 and 4, their strength is going to be in along the lines. It is hard to win football games when you do not have when you're not winning the battle up front, because you can't do anything. It's hard to, you know, function as an offense when you've got defensive linemen dry humping your quarterback. You just can't do it. It's too difficult. So you need to be able to function as an offense. And if you have gifted offensive linemen, you can do that because they're protecting or they're creating space. The problem for people dealing with Georgia this past year specifically was Jalen Carter. He was a real problem. The way Bear Alexander played last year was noticeable. It was, I mean, it wasn't Trayvon Walker, it wasn't Jalen Carter, but it was noticeable. Uh, I would say you could say the same thing about Williams. He was sudden. He was very difficult to deal with. Georgia's line, offensive and defensive line, are exceptional. They are probably the best combo lines in the country. Does Alabama have the capability? I mean, what would the line be right now, speaking of lines, for Georgia Bama on a neutral field? Would Georgia be a 4-point favorite, a 3-point favorite? Georgia would be favored. The question is by how much? And I don't know, you know. I don't know. I mean, Alabama would be the closest to Georgia, I think, in all of this on a neutral field we're talking about. Um, I don't know what that line would be. I think that's a good question. And the other thing that's so curious about the 2024 college football playoff is that the national championship, of course, is in Houston. The turnaround is pretty quick for these games. So the the way that that has all worked out in the past, that was tricky for Georgia years gone by. And of course, this is the last time that you're going to see the national championship uh, be just decided by 4 teams. From here on out, there's going to be quite a bit of teams added as we know now. So some change coming, but who would you pick? Would you pick Georgia to be more likely to win the national championship for a third year in a row, or would you pick Alabama and Nick Saban? I really want now. Don't just be haters. Give me your real opinion.